We got a fire going, and we had them right on the edge of the cliff. I don't know how high it was. It's probably about 150, maybe 200 feet high up on the cliff, and it's a sheer cliff. And they were doing this mournful old Denny song. So we took the motorboat and we went upriver, and as soon as the shot was ready, we cut the motor and we drifted down, and it was dead silent. And all you could hear was the drums and their voices off in the distance, and it was bouncing off the other side of the Mackenzie River. And man, you can't set up a shot like that in the studio nowhere, man. I went back to Fort Good Hope to finish this documentary. They're like my family, so I wanted to go back and, see them again. This is the beginning of the reunion. We were at Ron's and we called everybody together. We got some pictures and we can watch the raw footage that we have of the walk, and it just brought me back, to that moment. I was really excited because it was the first big job I was gonna go on, and there was good money too, and I was working with a guy out of Yellowknife named Terry Wolf, and I'd done a couple of little gigs with him in Yellowknife, and he was such a great guy to work with, so much fun to be around. It was like, oh, cool, man. Okay. We found our first glitch in the Moccasin Telegraph was Terry and I were supposed to have our own food supply for this walk. So we just rifled through the store, just grabbed a bunch of really light, dry food, like noodles and the instant oats, the packages. And we were debating, should we take it? Can we handle the weight? Anyways, so we got all this gear, and everybody had wraparound moccasins on. And I didn't say anything, and I was thinking, Jesus, I hope they're gonna be okay. It was really difficult the first couple of minutes, and I was thinking, holy crap, man, what did I get into here?
I thought we were walking the way we were flying over a certain trail, but then we went on a Indian trail, which is a little more harder. More mosquitoes. First couple hours was pretty hard, but then after a while you get used to the heat and mosquitoes and hunger and thirst, and it's pretty challenging. And just gotta keep going.
You could tell he was angry, just the way he had this wall and this big, whenever you looked at him, it was like, don't mess with me and don't come near me and don't make me feel, I was really surprised when we came back, and I saw him working at the co-op, and I looked and he had such confidence, and his back was so straight. I recognized the body, but I didn't recognize the person. I said, "Are you Nelson?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "You remember me?" He said, "Yeah. You were that film guy when we were on that walk." I said, "Yeah. How are you doing?" Shook his hand. Had a good strong shake. It's like, holy shit, man. Who is this guy here?
The way we were prepared was we thought about swamp, a lot of mosquitoes, physically in good shape to be able to do long walks, carry heavy packs, and sort of just practice in that forum to be able to prepare for the walk.
No one was really prepared. No one had done any training, and so we'd stop along the way. And I think it was about June 14th or 15th. Let's just say it was June 15th we left. Was our first day, and the bugs were, there was a lot of mosquitoes at that time of year, and it was hot.
Mosquito off doesn't even work if you're sweating. It just washes it right away, and you just got to put more on. Plus, you can't really take off any of your clothes in the heat because mosquitoes will be there. They'll be starting to bite you up.
The first leg of the trip was about a 5-mile hike over to Bellet Lake, but the real name is Lac Bellot, like on the map.
They want to camp there tonight, and tomorrow they want to camp here somewhere, here, and this is the way the trail goes.
There's a map in Fort Good Hope at the Sawtooth Land Use Planning Board's office of all the old trails that they used, and it's a spider web of trails that they had. They went and interviewed a lot of the elders like several years ago, and they were fortunate to get this information from them before they had passed on. Man, I wish I was there because of the simplicity and because of the self-reliance and the independence that they must have had at one time. And I just love listening to the elders tell these types of stories, because I think sometimes that I have troubles in my life, but then when they talk about these elders and their trips, it's like, it really puts everything into perspective. It's like, they used to be gone like for 2 months walking. Oh, that's heavy, you know. You know, that's an accomplishment and a feat. When I first met Hyacinth, I was very intimidated by his stoicism. Very stoic, very traditional, doesn't speak a lot of English. Couldn't really be bothered to explain his culture anymore to anybody. He was just living his way of life. This was his life. And Marie, on the other hand, was very open and talkative, and she opened the door to her life, and it was like, this is the way we live, and she was very helpful in making me feel comfortable. Their role in the walk was to somewhat keep us on the straight and narrow as far as ritual went. When we first got to Bellet Lake, made a fire, and they have this thing called a fire feeding ceremony. It's like a sacrifice. You sacrifice something of value to you, like matches, or if you're a smoker, you throw a cigarette in, or if you got a little bit of change in your pocket, you throw it in the fire, and it's a sacrifice for safe journey.
Well, for me, I guess it's a way of showing respect to the land and asking for protection and guidance, and thanking it, and because we're on an ancestral trail, and I respect that.
We had to complete the walk in 6 days so we can get to Fort Good Hope for National Aboriginal Day. So we cut a day's walk by taking the boat down to the end of Lac Bellot. By the time we got there, everybody had their camp set up, and they worked really fast with just a little axe just within minutes, they had everybody would be walking with a big armful of spruce boughs, and they just dropped them down, and the woman would lay them out like a carpet. And then over top of that, then they would set a small tarp. Then underneath the tarp, they would put a mosquito bar, and then you put your sleeping bag in there. It was really nice. We just had such a wonderful sleep, you know, outdoors, and so we just snored all night long. So the next morning, everybody had breakfast, and to wake up and to hear this music and to see Marie there by the edge of the lake, just so much at home. They had a tent, and they had all their sleeping gear, like good sleeping gear, and all her pots and pans, and she even had a big radio. Like Marie and Hyacinth and Paul were the only ones who really had any experience on these type of trips.
Sometimes it take about a week to get back to Cobra Lake, I think, because they're taking their time shooting ducks and hunting like that. If they shoot something, they stay there for 2 days, 3 days to dry their meat or something there.
Like they're used to taking their time, you know? They weren't really happy with the fact that we had to get there by a certain date, because in the old days, like, there was no clock and no calendar, and it's like, get there when you get there. Eddie has a foot and a half in the past. You know, he's an old soul, I guess, put it that way. He's another guy that things just roll off his back. Nothing bothers him. And that's such a trait of the elders, especially the elderly men.
I just wanted to see everything. I mean, the whole trail. What was on the trail? All campsites. When I go to sleep in the morning, when I get up, I'll be looking forward to go again, just out of curiosity, to see what was on the trail. What was it like?
Within minutes, their camp is tore down, and the tarps, everything's put away, the dogs are packed, and we really had to hustle to keep up with them the first couple of days, especially with that old dog we had, because he was so eager and just bouncing around.
In some cases, they pack a lot more than good, heavy physical men. So the dogs were, we prepared them in that sort. And because there's going to be a lot of us involved, we had pre-meetings about the dogs, how the dogs are going to associate with one another, because a lot of them are going to be just running at random.
About 45 minutes after we left our first camp, 2 of Hyacinth's dogs must have caught scent of a caribou, because they took off. In their packs, they had a lot of dry meat, dry fish, flour, some real staples, and they also had Hyacinth's tent and his stove, and some of Marie's clothes and stuff. So they were really worried about it. We looked at the map, and Hyacinth and Paul showed us where to walk to in camp. Said, go up there and wait for us, and we're going to go look for our dogs.
I had to continue to go. You can't just stop and keep yourself wondering or worry about something else. You just got to keep on with every day, and every day was something that was important. Like for me, it was what had to be done in the day, it has to be done, and you can't just stop.
So we packed up and we took off and we climbed this hill. I think it was probably about maybe 800-900 foot hill, and it had a really steep grade. So it was a really tough walk up there and getting up that hill. What was the toughest part of it?
Walking up that steep hill. walking through the muskeg.
I asked him, like, what made you want to go on that walk? Like, what compelled a 13-year-old kid to give up a Nintendo game and all his friends in the community and fly out in the middle of nowhere and walk back? Like, what compelled you to do that? And a typical northern response was, I don't know, I just wanted to see it.
Oh, my big brother Troy said, Daniel, you're not gonna make it and give up. And on the first day that, then I gotten mad. Then I just took off. I was just swearing at him. I took off. And then that just picked me up and I just went to Kovalik.
And that's kind of typical of what kids go through in the north, you know. It's, you know, crap runs downhill, man. And the higher you can get up there, the better off you're going to be. And we continued on and we got to this creek and we set camp and had something to eat. The dog started barking and we thought, oh, right on, Hyacinth and Maria are back. They probably have their dogs. They came walking into camp and they didn't have their dogs and they looked really tired. They were talking in their language amongst everybody. And then Ron came over and said they didn't find them.
When the dogs didn't come back, felt maybe we should call the trip off. You know, it's a lot closer to civilization at that time. But with confidence from the elders, they wanted to plug on, so which was a good sign. So the group decided to go.
So we were kind of worried, but you know, like people up here are so, you know, they're so optimistic. It's like, it's okay. It's not such a big deal. And we want to do this unaided. We want to do this unassisted, you know. Everybody wanted to do this walk unassisted, so it was like, okay, we're going to be okay. We got a net, we got a gun, we probably got enough food to get by, you know, maybe we're just overreacting here. So later on that afternoon, they decided, well, they're going to set the net across this creek and maybe we'll get some fish. They cut a bunch of tall spruce trees down and dropped them all across the creek, then put spruce boughs on top of them, and that was the bridge. And that was really interesting to see. It was like, oh, cool. So anyways, they made the bridge, and Leon and somebody else and Ron and Lawrence went across, and Paul was on this side, and he tied a rock to the end of a rope, threw it across. They pulled it around a tree, threw it back to Paul. Paul tied the fishnet on the end of that line and pulled it back like a pulley. So he set the net across the creek. Ernie was back to put some pieces together in the puzzle of his life. I believe he was born in Fort Good Hope and adopted out as an infant to an Inuit couple in Eastern Arctic, or Nunavut, as it's called now. He spent a lot of time alone. He'd walk, very inquisitive, very curious type of guy.
How do you say beautiful country in slavery again?
Nariguti.
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 And he'd look at trees, pull a bud off and pull it apart and look at it. And take his knife out and take some tree gum and taste it. And go to the lake and taste the water, see what the water tasted like. Kind of just sit there in the silence of the night and just to see what it sounded like. It's really interesting to watch him, and very helpful with the elders, you know, break camp, set camp. He helped them while we were walking, you know, he'd watch their dogs for them, and very respectful.
In those days, they used to catch lots like this?
Yeah. That's good. Put in here.
Yeah. That's the way you guys like to set it? Or?
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah. The kids should be seeing this, you know, because they're growing up, and then they should see what I'm doing.
Nowadays, most of the younger generation all basically stay in town, and they're just not learning anything in town except school. They're not learning stuff like this, which should be taught to them. I personally, it's my first time on this trail, and it's quite an experience.
The traditional values are what belongs to the families, and that's how families were brought up in the past. But today that's changed quite a bit. The values changed again into money, and money is how we're surviving today. In the past it was on the land, so it's all about survival. So those skills were taught from an early age. Even from a young little child on the mother's back, watches everything the mother does. But today that's changed because kids have to go to school, and so their parents are stuck in the communities. Because of their work they have to do in the communities. And the elders, because they're medical or they're sick, they have to stay in the community. And a lot of them are just longing for the land. And they're just wishing for those things, and they go into grief. I make them aware of these things.
Charlie's somewhat of a spiritual leader in Good Hope. He works in the addictions field, and very much a traditionalist.
I feel there's 4 walls, and I want to do my work, but it's out there on the land. That's where I do a lot of my work.
And that night we checked the net around maybe 9 or 10 o'clock at night, but there was no fish in that creek. And it was like, oh, no sweat, you know, there's Little Losh Lake. We can set a net in Little Losh Lake, and we'll get some fish there. I mean, I was worried about it. I don't know how anybody else was feeling about it. Up here, distances come in 3 terms. Pretty close, not far, and quite a ways. So pretty close is about 2 hours. Not far, maybe half a day. And quite a ways, all day. How far is that lake? Quite a ways. How far is that creek? Pretty close. It's like, oh, right on, thank God. One night it rained, and everybody was soaking wet when we got into the campsite. Had this big fire going, threw a tarp over top of it, tied some lines across, dried our stuff. And of course there were spruce boughs, slept. Got up in the morning, still raining. Like, no one was discouraged. There was no one was complaining or nothing. Just keep going. Let's just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. And it was good. It was like after a while we started to get a rhythm in our walk. So we're going, and you know, people are having. Everybody had fun, and this old dog that we had, Chocolate, the Willows. He was old, eh? So every time we stopped, like the bugs would just get at him, and they were just feasting on him, and he'd start whining, and everybody was going, Dennis, shut up your dog. Shut your dog up. And so I built him a smudge, and it worked. Like I would build it downwind from him, and we'd have peace and quiet. So it was a running gag. It's like whenever we'd stop, Lawrence Manuel, of course, would say, well, Dennis, you better build chocolate a smudge. And of course, everybody would start laughing. Then they'd start talking in their language, and then pretty soon everybody was just roaring with laughter. And here I was with my 50-pound pack, my $120 hiking shoes that were killing me, this friggin' dog that was driving me nuts. And you really had to grow a thick skin. You really have to grow a thick skin up here.
Hanging in there. My morale is still strong though, but my feet, I don't know. I might have to see a doctor.
I tried to theorize one time with someone about humor in the North. I think what it is it goes back to the old days when life and death were just one, right? It's like death was just on the other door. Which door are you gonna take, you know? So there was no time or no reason for contemplation or worrying about tomorrow. It's the attitude is smoke it if you got it, you know, and laugh while you can, and laugh at yourself, laugh at your own situation, laugh at your misfortunes. And they were always teasing Paul, because Paul is a sergeant with the Canadian Rangers.
Saddle up, lock and load. Up, Ranger!
I'm a ranger too, so that's how they call me. Yeah, they always call me Sarge.
Always had a smile, always had a joke, always was ready to take it in the ribs, you know, and he was just an inspiration to be around, you know. I'd walk up to him and I'd just say, how you doing, Paul? And it's like, no problem, no sweat. So we'd be walking along in this trail, like no one had been on it for 34 years, like over 30 years. So a lot of it was just a faint little outline, you know, just a faint little outline in the land. And Paul was in the front there, looking for the footprints that he'd left 34 years before.
It looks different now. Like the trees are grown, the willows, and looks different for me. Since it's the last walk I make to there, I think I walk on that road twice, I think. Just twice. But I still know where's the route going, huh?
We lost the trail about a few times today and we're waiting for the guys to find it.
Sometimes it's pretty hard to find these trails through the bush here, especially when it's burnt and when the ground is hard and the trail is not packed down. So it's easier to find a trail when the ground is soft, easier. But it's through here, maybe a little bit grown over and harder to find, I think.
Whenever we lost the trail, the group would kind of span out. Whenever someone found it, they'd yell. Kind of felt discouraged there, but also had faith in the elders.
When the group gathered up again and the elder Heiss and Kashan told us that when we lose the trail, that everybody shouldn't just spread out. There should be like at least one or two people to go out and try to find the trail and come back and gather with the group again, because then everybody gets lost. So for me, that was a teaching, like a teaching for me as a tool that I still carry today. Yep.
Everybody there had family. Darnell was there with I believe with one of his uncles or one of his aunts. So Dan didn't really have any family there. He was the only connection he had to the group was with Darnell, and you know they were friends, right? So we were marching pretty hard, and at one point we'd done like an 18-hour day, and Dan was walking and he stepped on a broken twig, and he bruised his foot, And that hurts like hell if you've ever experienced that. Especially if you got a big pack on your back and you're tired and you're hungry and you're in the middle of nowhere. So he just laid there and he cried. 5, 6 days of all that walking finally got to him, and he said, "You go ahead and I'll catch up with you." And it was kind of cute, you know. It was like, no sweat, just go. I'll follow your trail. And it was like, I don't think so. We all stood around, kind of let him cry for a while, and it was, okay, Dan, we gotta go. We're waiting for you. We're all tired. We all want to cry. You know, we're really bagged, but we gotta go. We can't leave you here. Everybody took a little bit of his pack, and we got him up, and somebody gave him a crooked old walking stick, and he had this big shirt on, and it was like way too big for him. And it was really cute as he was walking away. He looked like an old essay grandfather walking back to Good Hope to get some tea and sugar for his family. So it was really cute to watch him, you know, hobbling down the road there.
The community just kind of pulled together, and they felt proud of everybody that was involved, especially the youth, the 2 youth that were involved. They made it, and they set a good example for a lot of the youth, and that made me feel really good. That
he sees a lot of the dysfunction and you know, the social upheaval going on, and he's got a tough job in his capacity. As he's worked as a court worker, he's worked as a community constable. He's always worked in roles which demanded that he help to make some change in the community.
These days is mostly only drinking. They think drinking, they got nothing happiness, nothing good ahead of them. Just drink, that's it. But old-timer, everything was really good, you know. They like to live in the land, hunting, all things like that. But now they just stay in town. That's why.
Any isolated Aboriginal community the world over has one common problem, which is there's a broken link to the past, and all this information we're getting from Western culture through television, through the radio, through the internet, through ads, through billboards is like, you have to look this way, you have to own this if you want to be successful, if you want to be accepted into this culture. You know, that's a strong message that you just don't cut it and you're never gonna cut it. And if you're young and impressionable, you're probably at the most vulnerable point of your life. You're a teenager. You're growing up in this little community in the middle of nowhere, and you're getting all these messages. How could you not hate who you are? There's no future. Doesn't seem like there's any future anyways. You know, with all due respect to the parents came out of the residential school system with no parenting skills, totally dragged out of the old ways, yanked out of the old ways, plopped down in the now and here and now, and taught that their language is dirty, their eating habits are dirty, their food is filthy. And when they were back there in the so-called living as heathens, it was beautiful. You had family around you, people that loved you, and food, wonderful food from the land, taken right out of the water, right onto your plate. I mean, how much pure is that? You want to talk about filthy? Well, let's see how a fish farm operates or a cattle ranch, you know? I mean, that's filthy if you really think about it.
Some of those burial grounds we saw, some relatives, they never seen them for years and years, and they kind of wondered where they were. And at least we kind of know where it is now.
My name is Fred Chena, This is my nephew Chester, and my grandparents had an accident across here years ago before I was born, I guess, and they're buried across here, 5 of them. And sort of wanted to go on this trail because I wanted to stop by here and see the lake.
I just felt such sorrow, like at that moment, like when I first set up my camera, it was work, you know, like I was working, and then after I turned around and looked and I seen him, he was leaning against a tree looking out at this lake, and I couldn't walk away. Like I walked a few steps away to give him some room, and then but I couldn't walk. I couldn't leave him, eh? I just wanted to be there, even if he just could feel in the back that I cared and that I was there for him and his nephew. And they stood there for the longest time, just in silence. And you know, man, it must have been heart-wrenching to see that, you know, just to be there.
We've been walking since about 3 o'clock, and it's been about 12 hours, and I'm feeling good. It's in the morning, and this is what it's all about. And the best time to walk is at night. There's no mosquitoes, and so it's good.
We just made a unanimous decision. Let's stop and sleep for a little while at least. So okay, everybody just drop everything right there, tie up the dog. It was so good to get those shoes off, man. My feet were just blistered and they hurt like hell. I was like, oh man, I just can't wait to get out of here. I just can't wait to get this thing done. No sooner than I got my eyes closed, Lawrence was going around, come on, time to go, we gotta go. Like, please leave me here. I felt like Dan, like, just leave me here, man, just go. Let's have whatever we got left to eat. And Terry and I, by this time, we were just eating anything. We had all this horrible dried noodle soup. We'd make it in this old rotten old tin pot that was all black. We'd boil this goop up, throw in some instant rolled oats, some raisins, whatever we had, whatever. You could always count on at least 2-3 dozen mosquitoes dropping in for a meal too, and they'd all be in the soup, and it's like, no, screw it, just eat it. It's like you got no time to pick out this stuff, just eat it. And in your tea too, always dropping in your tea, just drink it, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter, it's just a bug. It's not gonna kill you. Just eat it. There's a hill that we can see that might be an hour's walk away. How far, Paul? Pretty close, pretty close. How far to Rabbitskin? Quite a ways, quite a ways, quite a ways. So it's like the hill that we can see is pretty close to the river. Up here, when you want to announce your approach, you shoot 3 times with a rifle. Sure enough, we get an answer. All right, we're close, we're pretty close, we're pretty close. We could see it, and we could taste it, and we can feel it, and it was in the air, and man, there was an electric energy that was like, the end is near. And so I got out my camera and I said, Ernie, how are you feeling now? Did you find an answer? Did you find what you were looking for? And he spoke to me in Inuktitut.
Aba muktaqattaqimal imata ahani nunaqa ma abani itqali aba muktaqattaqimalerlutit pim niuvegaqattarlutillu huqalungal qan itqaumanermut taamna pihuluktugu hit qulillu hitamaru tigut tappa itqililu.
Here was an Inuk in the Sawtoo. So it was, you can't buy that experience, you can't buy that moment. It was very powerful for me. I really felt proud of him. We see two angels walking toward us with a case of Pepsi and a bag of goodies, chocolate bars, fruit cups. If you can suffer 6 days of hell,
you get a can of soda and a friggin' chocolate bar.
It's like, oh.
This can of soda just made a mockery of what I've been through.
If you've ever endured, like, you know, like something that it's really strenuous and it takes a lot of stamina, like maybe climbing a big hill, and when you get to the top of the hill, you go, that wasn't that bad. You know, I wasn't gonna die. Anyways, that's the way I felt. And everybody felt the same way too. But the pinnacle of the trip, the most proud moment of the trip, was when we rounded the corner. All their families, all the elders, and the drummers were playing a welcoming song. Ta-tum, 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 ta-tum. I could see just a little bit of emotion in someone's eyes, like someone's eyes were getting wet. And that's really powerful if you can pull out of emotion out of somebody so hard. Everything was worth it. My trouble seemed so small, my concerns so minute, and I had this big lump in my throat. And Terry, I looked at him and his eyes were watering and we're trying to get this shot. And there was this little communication in our look. It was like, yeah, I know. Let's just get this shot because we need it. Everybody wanted to be around Dan Dan, all his little buddies. And for that moment, Dan Dan was a star. Everything, just all those little moments were worth it. And if you wanted to go back to Culver Lake, it'll take you 30 minutes. You can get back to Culver Lake in 30 minutes. How much are you gonna learn about yourself in those 30 minutes? You're never gonna learn anything about yourself flying from Culver Lake to Fort Good Hope in 30 minutes, what you will walking. And Hyacinth and Marie, they'll say, you guys will go too fast. You walk too fast, you. What's a rush? Never mind the calendar, never mind your watch. Take your time, slow down. Here we were jogging, almost marching to the beat of someone else's drum. Maybe people need to march more to the beat of the Hareskin people's drum. Maybe these kids, if they just march to the beat of their own drum. It's more of a beautiful beat, more of a beautiful rhythm, and you just march with time and march with the season, march with the animals, march with the sun,
That's what I got out of it anyways. It's like, what's the sense of trying to beat time? Because you can't beat time. Like, what's the rush?